let's go ahead and get started. Full partnership meeting. We're going to start with some introductions. And first of all, SCDRP staff, you know me, Heather McCarthy, Executive Director, Tina Jackson. There she is. Tina's our program coordinator, and next to her is Ricardo Mercado. He is our assistant program coordinator, and they have been helping out tirelessly to get this meeting together. Yeah. And now I'd like to introduce there they are. And now I'd like to introduce our executive committee, Lindy Betzhold, chair of our advisory board. She's with NOAA Office of Coastal Management. John Phillipsborn. John? There he is. There's John. John Phillipsborn, he's our advisory board vice chair from Atlanta Regional Commission, and Lillian Ramirez is also on the executive committee as an at-large member, and she represents Sea Grant Puerto Rico, and she was unable to join us today. I'd also like to introduce the current advisory board members that are here. You can see on the list, you met Lindy, John, Amanda Martin from North Carolina. She was unable to join us. Amanda Guthrie from South Carolina Sea Grant. She's here somewhere. Kate Morano, she was just up here from Georgia Tech. Dwayne DeFries, you met him in session 1, from Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. And Hillary Lohman, you also met her from U.S. Virgin Islands. Ashley Ward from Duke University. She was asking lots of questions today, so you probably saw her. Rick DeVoe from College of Charleston is not here today. Jeremy Stalker from Jacksonville University. And Jim Murley, Chief Resilience Officer for Miami-Dade County. Randall Matthews, there you are, from Chatham Emergency Management. And Randall will be doing our tours tomorrow morning, walking tours to Chatham Emergency Management. And Kayla Brayland from NOAA, over there. There she is. And at this time, I'd like to give a big, big thank you to John Phillipsborn, who is stepping down at the end of this term from the board, and for all of your years of service. Thank you, John. Also want to congratulate our new incoming advisory board members. So their 3-year term officially starts February 1st. Lindy Betzhold, our current advisory board chair, was reelected into the federal government seat. Brian Byfield, there he is. Brian from North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resilience was elected into the North Carolina seat. And we are so happy to have 2 new professionals coming from the private sector to join our advisory board. Jeff Morris from Moffitt and Nichol. He's here somewhere. And Holly Jansen-Schmidt from Jacobs. She's here somewhere too. And also, welcome from Patrick Howell from IBTS, the Institute for Building Technology and Safety, who will be joining us in a nonprofit seat. Congratulations. So now we're going to run through kind of an overview of who SCDRP is today. We'll talk about membership numbers, who are our group members, and how we fall on those pie charts. So first, membership growth. This is kind of a look at how we've grown since 2022, and we've experienced some spikes and then some steady growth. The number of active dues-paying members has risen to 142, and it continues to grow every day. Similarly, our participants that subscribe to our newsletter and come to our monthly partnership meetings has grown to 562. We transitioned to a new data management platform in early 2023, and so here are some of the trends in membership since then, and kind of what's notable here. Well, most group members were added at the beginning of the year. All student members were added in the summer. It's kind of interesting. New individual members seems to be, fairly steady throughout the year, and interestingly, spikes in the number of participants also occurred during the summer last year. So it's we've always kind of thought of summer as sort of a dead time. Nobody's really doing anything. Everybody's going on vacation, and it's not really true. I think they're out there looking for networks like this, and they seem to find us in the summer. Here are our current group members, and we thank each of them for their continued support throughout the year. And we've grown a few over the last year as well. And we're always looking for additional group members. They come with, if your organization joins in this way, then you also get a set number of individual memberships that come with it. So the membership by sector, the membership of SCDRP is really multi-sectoral, and it reflects deep commitments from academia, private sector, nonprofits, and all levels of government. Here's our current membership profile by state territory, and what do I expect after this? I expect a big uptick from Georgia. Yeah, and I think it's always kind of fun to look at the logos of who we represent, and here are some of the more recent ones, and this is where our members work. And you can see we've added some new industries over time. New companies, new local governments are always coming to us, and some new nonprofits that really fill a niche that wasn't filled before. And this is just a random sampling. So opportunities for members. Both committees and upcoming virtual partnership meetings. We have formalized committees over the last year through policies and procedures, and it's our committees where we really get the work done. And John, would you like to talk about committees, or would you like me to continue? I'm on a roll. Okay, all right. I'll keep going, and I'm trying to make up for time lost, a little bit. Okay, thanks. Okay, so here are the committees that we have written into our policies and procedures, and each committee is comprised of both some advisory board members, an advisory board chair, and then also members, just SCDRP members. You bring great experience to these committees. First up is the governance committee. They are responsible for further developing the rules and the policies and procedures, and this gets more important as we get bigger and bigger. The governance committee is currently chaired by Rick DeVoe at the College of Charleston and Ashley Ward from Duke University. And please let us know if you would like to join the governance committee, particularly if you have a background in nonprofit governance. Partnership committee. This might be our most popular. This is oops, where did it go? Oh, okay. The Partnership Committee, this connects SCDRP to organizations, develops joint efforts and initiatives between partners, helps identify the monthly speakers. The chair of the Partnership Committee, there's Amanda Guthrie from South Carolina Sea Grant. And if you feel that SCDRP needs more representation from a certain sector, a line of work, or a geographic location, then please join the Partnership Committee. The Development Committee, this solicits and generates financial resources to sustain SCDRP, and Randall Matthews from Chatham Emergency Management leads the Development Committee. If you have an interest in how SCDRP receives and sustains funding into the future, please join the Development Committee. So these are some of the goals of the SCDRP committees as we look forward into the 2024. We will be expanding and diversifying our membership, offering more resources and educational opportunities to our members and communities, formalizing new policies and procedures, and securing grant funding to advance solutions that address regional resilience issues. And we have a virtual monthly partnership meeting. It's usually the fourth Thursday of every month. And our next one coming up is in February 22nd, always on Thursdays at 10 o'clock, same place, same time. And we look forward to hearing from Dr. Andy Fox at North Carolina State. So a couple accomplishments as we look back over the last year. So as SCDRP grows, we continue to evolve into a more structured and formal organization. Last year, we held our second advisory board election, and we brought on a number of new members. And we wrote new policies and procedures regarding the composition and the election of the SCDRP Advisory Board. Submitted a lot of grants, and we collaborated on an NSF Innovation Engine grant proposal, NOAA OTT grant proposal. Hey, with Vamsi right there. Collaborator on a NIAS Center for Excellence heat-related grant submitted to philanthropic groups like CO2 Foundation, and we're taking the lead on a full proposal to the NOAA Coastal Resilience Regional Challenge. And over the last summer, we began our strategic planning process to update our SCDRP strategic plan, which expired last December. So this was a process that took many months over the summer. A lot of surveys went out to both you, the membership, and more specifically our advisory board. And we wrote a new vision, new mission. We added core values, which we never had before. And then we refreshed our 3-year strategic goals. So just a real quick look at core values. Collaboration, learning, equity, and support. So these are the values that will guide us through the next 3 years. SCDRP vision changed a little bit. Our vision is now communities across the U.S., Southeast, and Caribbean will be significantly more resilient to episodic and chronic impacts due to climate change, natural hazards, and disasters. So a little bit broader and to include all timescales. Our mission is to serve as a trusted regional network, and we added that word trusted this year, and I think you can see from all of the panels that word keeps coming up again. A trusted regional network to build professional skills, facilitate knowledge exchange, advance equitable climate adaptation approaches, promote strategies for accelerating natural disaster recovery, and facilitate strong and diverse partnerships across professional sectors. So in the new strategic plan, we have 3 main objectives. This is kind of a look at them, and you can see that they're sort of set up so that we serve different entities on each one. Objective 1 is serve the partners. Objective 2 is to serve and add to the body of knowledge. And then objective 3 is to serve the partnership as a whole. And each of these has 5 to 6 to 7 strategic objectives that will help us key strategies to achieve the objective. And this is where I really kind of want to talk and see what you think directions that SCDRP should go. And the new strategic plan is on our website, and you can download it and take a good look at it, a good hard look at it. So at this time, I'm going to fly to the open discussion. And this is the piece of the full partnership meeting in person that I really benefit the most from. And I go back to last year when we had this full partnership meeting. I actually got to hear from you, and it was incredibly valuable. And I took a ton of notes, and I referred back to those notes throughout the year last year. And I really, if you have things to say, I encourage you to come forward, come a little closer, and we'll share the microphone. These are some open-ended questions that I would like to hear from you in regards to. So how do we achieve the strategic objectives that you just heard? And I think that throughout the day, we've heard a lot about how SCDRP can serve and better serve our communities. And now we need to figure out how, right, and how to push forward. What are your thoughts and goals for SCDRP in 2024? And how can we serve your sector? So each of you represent a different sector. What can we do for you? And how can we better serve the communities that are within our region, and not just some, but all? I have 2 microphones. Let's use them.
I've got a quick thought after our day together and thinking about this year's conference theme and communities we've heard from are so burdened by technological hazards. And I think within the scope of what SCDRP is a heavy focus on natural hazards. And an all hazards approach to me would behoove especially our that have been impacted and have less resilience because of those chronic technological hazards and the risks that they have. If you think of something like a cascading event like the Great Tohoku earthquake and Fukushima meltdown, how do our natural hazards create a greater risk for technological events or vice versa? So case in point, our Lower Richland community has Westinghouse nuclear power refueling plants. And they're earthquake prone. And our communities are those that have high vulnerability and low capacity. So just some thoughts there, wanting a greater all hazards approach perhaps within SCDRP.
Thank you, Heather. Vamsi Sridharan, Tetra Tech. So I obviously represent the private sector consulting firm. So I have a slightly sort of different take than what happened in the previous panel, which was great. There was folks talking about building solutions from within the community. That's correct. There also, I think, needs to be potentially better integration between communities and the consulting world, because sometimes you have situations like companies with Tetra Tech. We have huge contract vehicles with various federal agencies like FEMA, like EPA, like NOAA, like the Army Corps of Engineers. These run typically to millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, and sometimes we have the opportunities to co-develop ideas for proposals that we can take to these agencies. So there are situations where we can potentially help communities as well. The second thing was in terms of looking inwards to the communities to answer questions that arise from the community, the key challenges that they're facing. It is true that the people who are closest to the problems generally have some notion of what the solution is also going to be. But it is also true that engaging with professionals who have dedicated a lifetime to be trained in certain fields of engineering and sciences to be able to provide objective solutions to those problems could also help in that, in participating in that conversation and maybe effectively and efficiently executing some of the ideas that the community members have. So I would say better channels of better engagement with the consulting world, I think, would definitely be something that I would look forward to. The second thought was a little bit more sort of left field. I don't know if it's really very relevant to SCDRP, but I just want to throw it out there. So one of the really nice discussion points were that you are talking about communities that have historically been subject to racial discrimination now facing environmental justice issues. And you're looking at solutions that typically try to address those environmental justice issues by making the process of permitting for polluters or the polluter pays kind of concept a little bit more rigid, a little bit more how do I put this? Integrated with the community needs. But thinking beyond the United States, thinking globally, we live in this global village where people can just say that this environment is too oppressive for me to do business in. I will just close shop here and go and open it in some country where there is no regulation, where the lived experience of people is that all I'm trying to do is get out of my socioeconomic strata in life. I don't even care about the environment. I don't care about my river being polluted. I don't care about breathing in noxious fumes. All I want to do is make sure that I get my kids an education, I get my self a job, and there's a factory that's coming up here, and if it's going to take 10 years, 20 years of my life away, they don't even know that. So how do we make the conversation not just about our communities, but also maybe about global equity? I don't have the answer to this, but maybe something to think about.
Thank you, Vamsi. So what I'm hearing is SCDRP needs to go global. Just kidding. Who's next?
Thank you. I think from the local government perspective, we really need to work on building capacity because there is so much inequity, for grant writings and things like that. So I'm lucky to have a resource-rich, community as far as grant writers and things like that. But there's also smaller municipalities, even within this county, that have a staff of like 30 people. That includes all the firefighters and police officers and things like that just don't have the capacity to actually put together these grants to make things actionable. They're just trying to struggle, through their current issues and their current budgets. So providing pathways to help build capacity for local communities, I think would be really important. And that's, the responsibility of all of us in this room is to, try to build this and, connect people to those resources that don't know what's available out there, and how can we better assist them and bring them to the table when they're just struggling with that day to day.
So first, I just want to say that keep it up. SCDRP has grown and evolved, and it's really been exciting to see. Lindy will have to help me about when it got started, but 2016. So it's impressive because it's hard to fund something like this. There's no funding for this, right? So it's impressive that SCDRP has maintained, and the things that you're doing to pursue funding, right, to keep it going are excellent. And I think also keep it up in terms of the convening, because I think one of the real powers of this is both peer-to-peer learning that can go on, local government folks learning from other local government folks, but also the cross-sector learning and multidisciplinary learning that goes on. Today's, presentations were a great example of that. Something to consider, and I think this is something that we shy away from, is thinking about congressional engagement. Sounds scary, sounds political. Is my boss gonna be pissed off if I sign the letter? But I think there's so much value in those elected officials understanding the issues that were shared today. And it doesn't have to be even in an advocacy way that might be hard for us to sign, right? Just an articulation of the challenges, right? And an articulation of the value of funding things like this, right, is also helpful. So I would just urge you to think about that. It did come up today that calling your elected representative or senator can be helpful, right? And that might be something for the group to just think about if there are positive engagements that could happen there.
I'll just add on to that. Our Sear Hub is funded through an earmark that was sponsored by Senator John Ossoff a couple of years ago. Exactly like what you're talking about. And because of that, we have continuously tried to engage staff from his office that are here locally, and they are fantastic. They come to community meetings. They are interested in the work and want to hear more about what we're doing and what we need and what the communities that we're working with need. So that it's a little bit different than maybe state office elected officials, but we have found that relationship to be very, very fruitful. obviously in terms of funding initially, but just in terms of ongoing support and resources.
A couple observations. Number one, I do think we need to engage kind of more at that congressional level. And there's no reason that that has to be kind of in the framework of lobbying. So for example, in March, we'll have the Coastal States Organization with Restore America's Estuaries. I think IOS and Socorro are going to be probably part of that. And it's an easy way, Heather, for you and some board members to start to kind of at least let the congressional offices know that we exist and then what we do. And that's, a very easy way to engage at a very high level. The other thought I had, which has been evolving all day, is that many of you are partnering with us on this CRRC proposal. And there was a lot of good intel today that almost needs to be almost embedded. So some of the messages of how to move forward with engagement really need to be embraced within the narrative. And so I took a lot of notes, but I do think, the folks in the room and the leadership in the room, in a way, demonstrates how powerful SCDRP has already become. I mean, this was an amazing, I go through a lot of these. For 40 years, I've been going to conferences. It's rare that I walk away going, wow, that was impressive. This was an impressive conference, thanks to you and your staff. But you have legendary figures in American history, keynoting, and I think that is something that tells a lot about the relationships in this room and the ability to extend those relationships in a more formal way through the partnership. So it's something I'll work with those of you who are collaborating on this proposal. I honestly think we take the agenda and put it in the appendix. And then one last point, as we look at strategic objectives, the CRRC proposal in a way reflects our priorities, right? And so if we're not successful in getting funding, we shouldn't leave that document of work aside. So we know, and we heard today multiple times, where do we go for a single information resource? How do we make easy accessibility? So if we don't get funded from NOAA, we take those bits and pieces out of that proposal and go chase funding for bits and pieces of that, and don't leave it on the table like so often happens. You have a great idea, a great story, but you don't have the resolve to just, if we're going to go ahead and do a $2 million proposal, we need to stick with it if, by chance we don't get funded. So just a couple of thoughts, and congratulations to you and the staff for, a remarkable first day.
You have to get funding. This is awesome. I don't know where the role for SCDRP is in this, but for Savannah Riverkeeper, the reason that we were interested and got engaged is largely working with our first responders on the water, being the person that folks call and ask, how high is the river gonna get? Because we don't have proper gauges. Understanding, because the community calls us, where things flood and where they don't. And I shouldn't be the person that people call. That, you shouldn't. I'm happy to answer the question, but I shouldn't be the one that knows it. And so what I'm hoping that this relationship between us can help me do is bridge planners with EMA folks and first responders, because the first responders are the ones that then have to go clean up the mess that the planners should have prevented. So, and I think resiliency is a huge part of that, and community is a huge part of that. So I don't know where that fits in everything. I just wanted to stick a pin in it, because that was what brought me here.
Anybody else? Okay, so I think we're hearing some reoccurring themes here, not just from the panels and sessions today, but also from you. And I think my greatest challenge is to take the momentum that we create here and continue it throughout the rest of the year. And we will. We're taking notes. We're marking in our file cabinets what we need to do and the work that needs to be done and where we need to focus. So SCDRP is here for you. We're just a email away, really. So if you go out and you think of different answers to these questions, that please email me. Email me, send me your ideas, your continuing thoughts, and thank you, Inky Brittany, for getting all this down. And thank you for spending the day with us. If no one else has any other comments or questions, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this portion. And those of you that are interested, please stay around for the Eco Affinity film documentary and the following discussion, which I think will be very, very fruitful. Thank you all.